some people have been uploading dozens of books in a single day. Books they didn't write, the AI wrote. And so Amazon wants to control that a little bit. And customers also want to know, is this AI or did a human being create this story?
Yeah, I think that's how do you see that? It's interesting because how do you see that of young authors just using the AI robot and doing the book and that's it? What do you think about it?
Well, currently the people that are uploading dozens of books in a day aren't interested in the consumer's experience. They're interested in making money. And it shows, it reflects. When you buy an AI generated book today, you'll notice things that are wrong.
Welcome to NOUVA Podcast, a show where we delve into the world of business, marketing, and 3D technologies, exploring its creative magic and the business that brings it to life. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting Karl Beckstrand, the best-selling author and award-winning author, illustrator as well, of 27 multicultural and multilingual books and more than 65 ebooks titled. His work reflects cultural diversity, not only in protagonists, but in collaborators. Since 2004, Karl has run Premio Publishing, an award-winning multicultural YA fiction, e-book mysteries, nonfiction, and biographies, which he will tell us a little bit more about that. Also, Spanish language and bilingual picture books, short stories, and many more. So, Karl, thank you so much for joining us today in our podcast. Let's just dive right into it.
All right.
What initially drew you into the world of book publishing, and especially in the multicultural one audiences?
Okay. Well, gosh, it's funny because as a child, I didn't like to read or write. So it's funny that I am now a publisher. While I was getting my undergraduate degree in college and should have been doing my homework, I kept getting all these story ideas. And I would scribble them down and set them aside and think, oh, when I'm old and retired, maybe I'll get published. But about 20 years ago, I met a local publisher here in Utah. We got my first book all set up to print. And the day we were going to print, my publisher passed away. Yeah. And it was quite a shock, but it was also a huge learning experience because I had to learn all the things that I was counting on him to do, right, as far as marketing the book, etc.
Oh, right.
But as far as multicultural and multilingual, I remember growing up in San Jose, California, and it's a very cosmopolitan area. People from all over the world live there. And when I would read kids' books as a child, so many of them were these white kids. And I thought, well, that doesn't reflect the world around me. So I thought if I ever did publish a kid's book, I would make it representative of the people that I see.
What made you decide to take the leap and establish your own publishing house called Premio Publishing?
So I worked with two publishers early on. You know what happened with the first one. And then the second publisher, there were discussions about content and marketing and money that were just not pleasant. And by the time I worked with that publisher, I'd learned enough that I decided that I didn't want to have someone else control the content and the marketing and the money. So I started my own business. I had learned a lot with my first few books. And of course, it's an ever-changing industry, so I'm still learning publishing. But every time, even recently, when I go back and hire another company to do marketing for me, they don't do as good a job as I do. So I have to do that.
How has the rise of audiobooks and also ebooks impacted now in the publishing industry?
So ebooks changed my company in a big way. In fact, ebooks probably saved my company 24 years ago, when they first started becoming popular. I converted all my picture books into ebooks, and my sales shot up. And for a while, my ebooks outsold my print version books. That's not generally the trend nowadays, But for that time, it was a great event for me. I have a picture book series on immigrant children. They're true stories. They're biographies of 4 kids that immigrated to the United States as children. And those are picture books, but I figured I would read all those stories all together as one audiobook.
Oh, wow. And for example, Karl, why you're more into the children's, and you also do some young adults. Mm-hmm. Why took you more like passion in the children's area?
Well, it's funny because the children's stories just bombarded me early on when I first started. So most of my early books are children's picture books, and of course they're shorter, and it's faster and easier to publish. Well, not with art, but they are shorter books. So yeah, now I've branched out. I do biographies and short stories and self-help.
What factors should they consider when deciding between traditional and self-publishing? What is the difference between both of them?
Okay, so in the past, everybody wanted to traditionally publish with the big publishing houses because they had all the prestige and they had all the distribution, and they were supposedly the experts in marketing books. Technology has changed that. Now, the big publishers still have the prestige, but as far as access to distribution, any person can make agreements with a book distributor or a wholesaler. So there's no need for a middleman. You can set up agreements and have the big distribution that any big publisher has. And then, the marketing. Publishers give up so quickly on marketing books. They'll do some press releases, maybe a couple of book author signings, maybe some posters, and then they're done forever.
Really?
And I still market my very first books as if they're brand new, and they still sell pretty well. So when you're in charge of the marketing, and if you're passionate about your books, you're going to be the best person to sell them. It still has its value, but if you're in it, if you want your story, if you want final say on what is inside your book, you need to self-publish. If you want final say on the marketing, you need to self-publish. If you want to control the money, you need to self-publish. Book marketing profits are thin, margins are thin. And so when you include a regular publisher, you're adding a middleman, you're adding someone else to take a big chunk of the.
Okay, so what are the profits, if you can name approximate profits between both the traditional and the self-publishing? What are the profits for the author? And how does that work? If it's 1 year that you have to wait until the money is returning, or how does that work for new authors?
So historically, a traditional publisher will give if they accept your manuscript, they will give the author an advance. It can be a few hundred, a few $1,000s. Typically, publishers pay authors 5 to 10% of revenue, or 5 to 10% of the sale price of the book, one or the other. And that's not very much. And it's not like the publisher is getting a huge chunk themselves, but it is larger than what the author gets. With self-publishing, I still have middlemen. I still have wholesalers or distributors, so they have to get their chunk. And included with them is usually the bookstore's cut. And I have to pay artists and illustrators. And then after that, I have to pay advertising and marketing. So after that, I keep whatever's left. Okay, here's the really bad news about money and publishing.
Tell us the bad news.
The average wholesaler or distributor will ask for 60% of the money. That's more than half.
Yeah.
I've been able to, over the years, slowly talk my wholesalers down to about 45%. But that's still almost half the money they get right off the top. Yeah. And then, my illustrators get 6% of the revenue for every book that I have to pay to print. So there's a huge expense for me having to pay to print those books. And so that's why the illustrator gets such a small amount. Then they get 33 to 40% of ebook sales and print on demand. So print on demand is a relatively new development where rather than printing 50,000 books and having a giant warehouse full of books, you just upload files to Amazon or Ingram or Baker and Taylor or Barnes and Noble, and the book doesn't exist until a customer clicks on it, and then it prints and ships to the customer, and I don't touch it, but I get a royalty.
Oh, I didn't know. So that's like a new way in a couple of years ago from now.
And because I don't have to print books and store them and ship them, that saves me money. That's why artists get more money from print on demand and from ebooks. Right. It is more expensive to do print on demand, but it saves you so much time and effort. It is worth it. And you save money.
Why is it more expensive?
Pardon?
Why is it more expensive?
Because to have a company have a color printer that's good enough to do the quality of a book available, and when they do a print job, they're only printing one book at a time. That costs them a lot of money. Color printing one at a time, they have to reset up files.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's understandable. And for example, how can publishers stay competitive in an increasing digital world? Because you have your own house, and you might need to stay always in the tendency of new technology. So how do you stay on that range?
That's the challenge, because the industry is always changing. Then there were ebooks, and then there was print on demand, and then there's audiobooks, and now there's AI and Amazon. Right. Yeah. And when you publish through Amazon, they will ask you, they're very adamant, they want to know, is this an AI published book? One, because the quality is not good right now. And then the other is because some people have been uploading dozens of books in a single day. Books they didn't write, the AI wrote. And so Amazon wants to control that a little bit. And customers also want to know, is this AI or did a human being create this story?
Yeah, I think that's how do you see that? It's interesting, because how do you see that of young authors just using the AI robot and doing the book and that's it? What do you think about it?
Well, currently the people that are uploading dozens of books in a day aren't interested in the consumer's experience. They're interested in making money. And it shows, it reflects. When you buy an AI generated book today, you'll notice things that are wrong with it.
Really? Wow. Yeah, the robot is not that perfect.
So, but that will change. AI will get better and better, but I don't foresee myself ever turning full creation of a book over to AI. I might use AI in the future to extrapolate on some ideas that I have. So I might come up with a premise for a book and tell AI what I'm thinking of and ask it to evaluate other options and see how to make the book better. So that's how I would use it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are some of the common challenges faced by authors working with publishers, and how can this be addressed?
So challenge.
Do it come on, the people need to know.
The challenges that authors have with publishers is that most big publishing houses won't even look at your manuscript unless you have an agent. So you have to research your genre, find out who the agent was for a particularly popular book in a certain genre in your genre, and then contact that agent and see if they have time or availability to be your agent, which is tough. And then if you get accepted by the agent, to have the agent peddle your book to the publisher to see if the publisher is interested. And all of that process may take a couple of years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's tough. That's tough, people.
Yeah. But challenges for any author, like self-published author or anybody, challenges are always the profit margins are thin. So you have to be very careful how you spend your advertising budget, because you can increase your sales, but if your cost is higher than what you earned with the increased sales, it's not worth it.
Karl, we're almost getting into the end of the podcast, and I would like to have, if you have any advice for many of our aspiring writers in Spanish and in English, or anyone hoping to break into this publishing industry book, what advice would you give?
Consejos en inglés o en español.
That's great. Muy buen español.
Well, so for writers, I tell them, sit yourself down in your chair every day at the same time, even if it's just 10 minutes. If you do it at the same time every day, over a year, you'll have a book written probably. And then on the marketing side, do what I do. And that is, if you believe your book is good, never give up on it. Never stop marketing. And if you keep marketing it and it's a good book, you'll get revenue. And that will go on and on.
Before we leave, where can they find you?
So my website is kidsworldbooks.com, or I could be found on Amazon anywhere. My name is Karl Beckstrand, Karl with a K.
Thank you so much, Karl, for this time that you have gave us. Thank you also for your insights about the book publishing, and also to our listeners. Keep an eye for many amazing content coming up. And Karl, thank you for taking this time.